Ethan Cole was not a soldier, not a diplomat, and definitely not a hero. He was just a mechanic from Idaho who took a job on a deep space cargo hauler to pay off student debt. He never expected to step off a shuttle and find himself in the middle of a trial on an alien planet. The shuttle had landed on Zero-5, a green and misty world covered with glowing plants and floating spires of stone. Ethan had been sent to fix a power unit on the diplomatic outpost. When he got there, guards in silver armor grabbed him and brought him to a large hall filled with bright lights and strange smells. There were rows of tall green-skinned aliens with long white hair and eyes that shimmered like water. They were called the Asho. Ethan had only heard rumors about them. Peaceful, proud, and deeply bound by old traditions. He tried to explain he was just there for a repair job, but no one listened. The chief of the Asho stood and raised her hand. Her voice was deep and calm. She said Ethan had stepped into a sacred place without permission. It was a crime punishable by death under their law. Ethan's heart started racing. He shouted, said he was sorry, that it was a mistake. The guards didn't move. Then a soft voice cut through the tension. A young Asho woman with golden armor and long green robes stepped forward. She looked no older than 20 by human standards. Her name was Kelia. She looked at Ethan with interest. Then she turned to the chief and said in a calm voice, "I claim this human. He shall be mine." The hall fell silent. Ethan blinked, confused. One of the guards leaned over and whispered in his ear, "She has selected you as a mate. If you accept, the punishment is canceled." Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. "Mate?" The guard nodded. "It is rare, but her right. If she chooses and you agree, the law is satisfied." Ethan looked at Kelia. Her face was calm, unreadable. Her bright eyes watched him carefully. He looked around the hall. Everyone was waiting. It didn't feel real. He tried to speak. "Wait, what happens if I say no?" "Then you die," said the guard. Ethan laughed nervously. "This is crazy." Kelia took a step closer. "You will not be harmed. You will be given a place of honor. You may leave after the rites, if you wish." He didn't believe her, but he didn't want to die. He looked into her eyes again. There was something soft there. Not pity, not kindness exactly, but maybe curiosity. Maybe a little hope. He swallowed hard. "Okay," he said quietly. "I accept." The hall broke into soft singing, like wind through leaves. Kelia stepped forward and took his hand. Her skin was cool and smooth. She led him out of the hall, through a garden filled with floating lights. They walked in silence. Ethan still couldn't believe what had happened. He had come to fix a machine. Now he was engaged to an alien princess. Kelia stopped near a glowing tree. "You are afraid," Ethan nodded. "You think?" She looked at him. "I chose you to protect you. They were ready to kill you. Why?" "Why me?" She looked at the stars. "Because you didn't run. You faced them, and because I am tired of waiting for change." He didn't understand, not fully. But he didn't pull his hand away. That night, he was given a small room in the palace. The bed was soft. The windows looked out over a silver lake. He couldn't sleep. Everything had changed in one moment. He was still just a mechanic, but now he was something more. Something strange. Something uncertain. And the next day, the real trouble would begin. Ethan woke up early the next morning. The sky outside was soft blue, and strange birds flew past the window, leaving trails of light behind them. He sat up in bed and rubbed his face. Nothing had changed. He was still on an alien planet. He was still supposed to marry a green alien woman he barely knew. There was a knock on the door. A young Asho servant entered and gave him folded clothes made of soft silver fabric. She bowed and left without a word. Ethan looked at the clothes, then at his own dirty work pants. With a sigh, he changed. Kelia was waiting in the garden. She looked the same as the day before, calm and proud. Her long robe shimmered in the light. She nodded at Ethan as he walked over. "You slept well?" she asked. Not really, Ethan said. Still kind of shocked. She gave a small smile. It is a big change for both of us. Ethan looked around. The garden was full of floating plants and soft music played from hidden stones. It felt peaceful, but he didn't feel at peace. What now? He asked. Is there some kind of ceremony? Kellia nodded. 3 days of preparation, then the joining rite. Until then, we will be seen together. They must believe the bond is real. Ethan frowned. So this is all for show? She turned to him. No, it must become real, or it will not work. Ethan didn't know what to say. Everything was happening too fast. They walked through the palace halls. Asho people bowed to Kellia, then stared at Ethan with wide eyes. Some whispered. Some frowned. He felt like a strange animal on display. Kellia led him to a large room where food was waiting. There were fruits that glowed and bread that smelled like honey. Ethan took a bite and was surprised by the sweet, spicy taste. While they ate, Kellia spoke of her people. She told him that Asho traditions were strict, that many did not want humans near their world. She had spoken in favor of peace, but not all had agreed. Your arrival was seen as a test, she said. If I had not acted, they would have punished you to prove their laws are strong. You saved me, Ethan said. Kellia looked away. I also caused trouble. Now some will say I'm weak. Ethan leaned back. Maybe I should just leave. That might make things easier for you. She looked at him sharply. You agreed. And now you must stay. For a little while, at least. If you run, I cannot protect you. Ethan sighed. Great. So we fake a marriage and hope no one kills me. Kellia stood. Do not call it fake. Respect is the first step, even in pretending. They were taken to a training. Circle mechs? An old warrior named Torvin showed Ethan the basic customs of the Asho. How to bow. How to speak during formal moments. How to hold a ceremonial blade. Ethan struggled at first. Torvin was patient but firm. Kellia watched from the side. Once, she stepped forward and showed Ethan how to move his arms. Her touch was gentle. As the day ended, Ethan felt sore and tired. His head was full of new words and rules. Still, he had to admit it was kind of exciting. That night, Kellia came to visit his room. You did well, she said. Ethan laughed. I didn't fall on my face. That's a win. She looked serious. Tomorrow, the elders will test you. They will ask questions. They will look for weakness. You must answer with care. I'll try, he said. Kellia hesitated at the door. Do not fear. I will be with you. Ethan nodded. Thanks. I mean it. She left quietly. He lay down and stared at the ceiling. It was still hard to believe this was real. 3 days. A test. A wedding. Maybe more. Ethan didn't know if he could do it. But he also didn't want to give up. Maybe, just maybe, something good could come from this strange mess. The next morning, Ethan stood beside Kellia in a high chamber. The ceiling was made of clear crystal, and sunlight poured through it like golden rain. 5 elders sat in curved chairs. Their robes were heavy and dark. Their eyes were cold. Kellia had warned him the night before. The elders would not be friendly. They would ask hard questions. They would test his words. One mistake could end everything. An elder with silver lines across his face spoke first. Human, why do you deserve to stay among us? Ethan's mouth was dry. He took a breath. I didn't come here to stay. I came by accident. But now that I'm here, I want to learn. I didn't mean to break your laws. I just want a chance to make it right. The second elder leaned forward. She had eyes like sharp glass. Do you respect our ways? Do you understand what it means to stand with our princess? Ethan glanced at Kellia. She stood tall beside him, her expression calm. He nodded. I'm trying to understand. I respect her. I trust her. And if this is what she wants, I'll do my best to follow her path. There was silence. Then the third elder spoke. His voice was deep and slow. Will you protect her, even if it costs you your life? Ethan paused. That question hit hard. He didn't know her well, but she had saved his life. He looked into her eyes. Yes, I will. A soft hum moved through the room. The elders looked at each other but said nothing more. Then Kellia stepped forward. I have chosen this human with full knowledge. I stand by my choice. Let the rites continue. The elders nodded. Once. Then they left the chamber. Ethan let out a long breath. Was that a pass or a fail? Kellia smiled slightly. They will not stop us now, but their eyes will remain on you. That day, Ethan was shown the sacred places of the palace. There were rooms filled with old stones, walls covered with glowing symbols, and pools of quiet water where Kellia said her ancestors spoke in dreams. He felt out of place but also curious. Everything here was different, strange, yet beautiful. He asked many questions, and Kellia answered each with patience. Slowly, something like friendship began to form. At one point, they walked through a narrow passage that opened to a quiet ledge overlooking the city. Towers of crystal rose into the sky. Flying creatures drifted by, singing in deep tones. Ethan sat down and looked at the view. I've never seen anything like this. Kellia sat beside him. Most humans do not get this. Far. You've met humans before? Only once. A trade meeting. They were loud and proud. You are different. Ethan laughed. I've been told I'm not normal. She tilted her head. That may be why you lived. He looked at her closely. Why did you? Really choose me, Kellia. You said it was to save me. But there's more, isn't there? She didn't answer right away. Then she said softly, my people fear change. They stay with old rules. I wanted to show them something new. You are that chance. Ethan didn't know what to say. He felt something warm in his chest. A connection. He didn't expect. They stayed there in silence until the light began to fade. Back in his room, Ethan thought about the next day. The joining rite. A real ceremony. It still didn't feel real. But he wasn't as scared as before. He remembered Kellia's voice, calm and strong. He remembered her eyes when she said he was her chance. And for the first time, he thought maybe this strange path wasn't just about survival. Maybe it was about something new. Something he hadn't known he was looking for. He lay in bed, watching the stars through the window. Tomorrow he would stand beside her in front of the ashole, not just as a human, but as her chosen mate. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in days, he slept without fear. The morning of the joining rite arrived with a soft breeze and a sky full of glowing clouds. Ethan stood in front of a long mirror, wearing ceremonial robes of silver and blue. He felt nervous. His heart beat fast, and his hands were cold. Today, he would stand beside Kellia in front of the entire city. A young servant helped him adjust the robe. You look ready, she said. Ethan smiled weakly. I hope I am. Outside, the city of the ashole had gathered. People stood on floating platforms, bridges, and tall towers. Music filled the air, slow and deep, like a song from the stars. Kellia met him at the temple gate. She wore a long robe of gold and green. Her hair was tied back with silver threads, and her eyes shone with quiet power. You are not alone, she said as she walked beside him. That helps, Ethan replied, trying to breathe calmly. The temple was open to the sky. A circle of elders stood at the center. Flowers floated in the air like petals on wind. At the front of the circle stood the high priestess, her face painted in silver lines. Kellia and Ethan stepped into the circle. The music stopped. All eyes were on them. The high priestess spoke in the old language, then turned to Ethan. Do you come here by force or by choice? Ethan's voice was clear. By choice. Do you give your life to stand beside Kellia, to honor her people and protect her bond? He looked at Kellia, then back. Yes, I do. She turned to Kellia. Do you claim this human as your mate and partner, to walk with you in peace or danger? Kellia nodded. I do. The high priestess raised her hands. Then the bond is sealed. Let the stars bear witness. Light poured from the center of the circle. It rose into the air like fire and faded into the sky. The crowd bowed. Soft music returned. Ethan turned to Kellia. Is that it? She smiled. That is the beginning. After the ceremony, a feast was held. In the palace gardens, tables were filled with fruit, meat, and glowing drinks. Ashul musicians played soft songs. Children danced in circles. Ethan sat with Kellia at the high table. Many Ashul came to speak to them. Some gave blessings. Some offered advice. A few just stared at him in silence. He felt like he was walking through a dream. But when Kellia reached out and held his hand under the table, he felt real. Her touch was steady, warm. Later, they walked alone through the garden paths. Lanterns floated above them, and soft lights moved through the trees. Ethan stopped beside a pool. So now I'm your husband? Kellia looked at the water. By law, yes. But there is more to a bond than law. You mean feelings. She nodded. That takes time. And trust. Ethan looked at her. Do you trust me? More than most, she said. You have shown respect and courage. I'm still scared. So am I, but we begin with truth. They stood together in the quiet. A soft wind passed through the trees. Kellia spoke again. Tomorrow we will visit the outer villages. They need to see us. Some fear the Union. We must calm them. Ethan sighed. Sounds like hard work. She smiled. You will do fine. They respond to honesty. That night, Ethan returned to his room. He lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling again. But this time, the fear in his chest was smaller, replaced with something like hope. He thought of Kellia's hand in his, of her calm voice, of the way she looked at him with steady eyes. He was still a stranger on this world, still unsure of what the future would bring. But now he wasn't alone. And maybe, just maybe, this bond wasn't just a way to survive. Maybe it was the start of something more. Ethan woke up to the sound of soft knocking. The morning light filled his room with a golden glow. When he opened the door, Kellia stood outside, already dressed in her travel robe. Her green skin shimmered in the light, and her long braid hung down her back. We leave soon, she said. Ethan nodded and quickly got ready. He put on the clothes the servants had laid out for him, a simple robe with the mark of Kellia's house stitched on the chest. It felt strange, but he was getting used to strange. Outside, a small craft waited for them. It was smooth and white, floating just above the ground. 2 guards stood near it, their faces serious. Kellia and Ethan climbed inside. The craft rose into the sky and flew over the shining city. Ethan looked out the window. The land below was green and full of life. He saw rivers that glowed and forests that moved gently as if breathing. Where are we going? He asked. To Lirin village, Kellia said. They are proud and old. They do not like outsiders. So they won't like me. Not at first. But they will. Listen, I hope. The trip took an hour. When the craft landed, many Ashul were already gathered. Their faces were hard, their eyes narrow. Kellia stepped out first. She raised her hand in greeting. I come in peace, with my chosen mate. Ethan followed her, trying not to show his nerves. The air was thick and warm. The people watched him with cold silence. An old man with a tall staff walked forward. You? Bring a human to our land, Kellia. We expected more respect. Kellia bowed. I bring the truth. I bring a promise of peace. The man looked at Ethan. And does your mate speak for himself? Or does he only follow? Ethan stepped forward. His voice was calm. I follow her because I trust her. I speak for myself when I say I mean no harm. I only want to understand. The people murmured. The old man studied Ethan. Words are easy. Let us see if your spirit is as strong. They were taken to a field near the village. At the center stood a tall wooden post with marks carved into it. The old man pointed to it. touch the stone and speak your truth. If your heart is weak, it will show. Ethan looked at Kellia. She nodded. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the post. It felt cold, like ice. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. I didn't ask for this. I came here by mistake. But now I am here, and I want to be part of something good. I want to learn. I want to help. The post began to glow softly. The light spread from his hand to the ground. The crowd gasped. The old man raised his staff. The stone accepts your truth. From that moment, the mood shifted. The villagers no longer looked at Ethan with hate. Some even smiled. Kellia spoke with the leaders. They discussed trade, protection, and trust. Ethan stood nearby, still unsure of what he had just done. Later, a feast was held under the trees. Simple food was shared, and songs were sung. A few children came to sit near Ethan, curious about the human who had touched the truth stone. Small girl tugged his sleeve. Are you really her mate? Ethan smiled. Yes, I guess I am. Do you love her? He paused, thinking, I don't know yet, but I care about her. And I want to make her proud. The girl nodded. Then you will. That night, Kellia and Ethan sat near a fire. The stars above were bright and close. She looked at him, her face softer than usual. You did well today. I just told the truth. That is the hardest thing for many. He looked at the flames. I still don't understand everything, but I want to. Kellia placed her hand over his. You are already doing more than I hoped. They sat in silence, side by side, under the stars. For the first time, Ethan felt like maybe he belonged here, not just as a guest, not just as a husband by law, but as someone who could help make something better, and maybe, one day, someone who could love this world, and the woman who had saved his life. 2 days after the visit to Liron village, Ethan and Kellia returned to the city. The people welcomed them with cheers and music. News had spread that the Truth Stone accepted Ethan. It gave him a kind of respect among the Ashel, but not everyone was happy. Kellia's cousin, Varric, watched from a high balcony. He was tall, with hard eyes and a sharp voice. He had never liked humans, and he had always believed he should be the one to lead beside Kellia, not some stranger. That evening, a meeting was held in the palace hall. Kellia spoke about her plans for peace. Ethan stood beside her. Many elders listened, some with approval, others with worry. Varric stood and raised his voice. This human may have fooled a stone, but he has not proven himself in battle. We are a strong people, not ruled by soft words. Kellia stayed calm. Ethan has shown courage, respect, and truth. That is strength, Varric sneered. Then let him prove it. There was silence. The room waited. Varric continued. Let him face the trial of blades. If he truly belongs among us, he will survive. Ethan felt cold. What is the trial of blades? Kellia turned to him. It is an old test. A duel, not to the death, but to show heart. I'm not a fighter, Ethan said. Varric smiled. Then you are not one of us. Ethan looked at Kellia. Do I have to do this? She nodded slowly. If you refuse, they will say you are weak. They may try to remove me. Ethan took a deep breath. Then I'll fight. The trial was set for the next day. A ring was built in the middle of the square. Hundreds gathered to watch. Kellia stood at the edge, her face calm but tense. Ethan wore light armor and held a wooden training blade. Across from him, Varric stood tall and ready, his own blade shining in the sun. The horn sounded. Varric attacked fast. Ethan barely dodged. The first strike. He stumbled but stayed on his feet. He remembered what Torvin had taught him in training. Stay light, move fast, don't rely on power. The crowd shouted. Some cheered. Some laughed. Ethan blocked the strike and stepped back. He didn't try to win. He tried to stay standing. Again and again, he moved, ducked, blocked. Sweat poured from his face. Varric grew angry. Fight back, coward. Ethan breathed hard. I'm not here to hurt anyone. Varek struck again, harder this time. The hit knocked Ethan to the ground. His blade fell. The crowd gasped "Dot," but Ethan didn't stay down. He stood slowly, picked up his blade, and raised it again. Kelly's eyes filled with pride. Varek swung once more, but Ethan blocked it. Then he stepped aside and let Varek's strength pull him off balance. Varek stumbled forward. Ethan didn't strike. He just held his blade up and stepped back. The horn sounded. The trial was over. Varek fell to his knees, his face full of rage. Elders stood and spoke. The human has shown strength not in power, but in control. He has passed. The crowd clapped and cheered. Kellia ran to Ethan. You did it. He smiled, exhausted. I didn't win. You didn't need to. You showed who you are. That night, the city held a celebration. Lights filled the sky, and music played in every street. Ethan walked beside Kellia through the crowd. People greeted him with respect. Children waved Dot at the palace steps. Kellia stopped. She turned to Ethan. You have walked through our customs, our trials, and our fears. Many now believe in you. Ethan looked around. And you? Kellia took his hand. I chose you to save your life. But now I see a future, not just for you and me, but for both our people. Ethan smiled. Then let's make it real. They stood together under the stars, no longer just bound by law, but by trust, courage, and something deeper began to grow between them. Weeks passed since the trial of blades. Ethan was no longer seen as a stranger. He walked through the city with confidence. The Ashel greeted him with respect. Some even asked for his help with machines and tools. He worked with the builders, helped repair old systems, and shared simple Earth ideas that surprised him. Kellia watched him grow each day. She smiled more when he was near. Their bond was no longer just tradition. It was something real. They talked in the gardens late at night. They shared stories, fears, and quiet laughter. One evening, Kellia received news from the council. A nearby planet had sent a message. They warned of a possible threat from an enemy group called the Zarn. The Zarn were cruel raiders. They had attacked other worlds before. Kellia called a meeting. The palace hall filled with voices of worry. Some wanted to prepare for war. Others wanted to hide. Ethan stood up. We should talk to them first. Find out if the threat is real. Varek, still, bitter but silent since his defeat, shook his head. You would trust outsiders again? Ethan stayed calm. I don't trust them, but I believe we should act with care. Fear makes us weak. Kellia nodded. We will send a scout ship. I will lead it. Ethan stood beside her. Then I go too. The next day, a small team left the city. Kellia, Ethan, and a few trained Ashel pilots flew into deep space. They reached the border of Ashel territory and sent a signal. A Zarn ship responded. It was large and dark, covered in metal spikes. The two ships met on a quiet moon. Kellia and Ethan walked out to speak with the Zarn leader. The leader was tall and armored. His voice was cold. We do not plan war. We do not fear it, Kellia answered. We want peace, but we will protect our people. The Zarn looked at Ethan. A human. Why is he here? Because I am part of her people now, Ethan said. And I stand with her. The leader paused. Then he gave a slow nod. You are brave, human. We will not attack. But next time, we may not speak first. With that, the Zarn left. The mission was done. Back on Zyrel 5. The people waited. When the ship landed and Kellia shared the news, there was relief. The city celebrated again. That night, Ethan and Kellia stood on a balcony. The stars above were bright. The air was soft. Kellia spoke. You stood with me in every step. Even when you could have run, Ethan smiled. I was scared, but I didn't want to leave your side. She looked into his eyes. Then stay, not just in name, not just for peace, but truly. He took her hand. I want to. I choose you. Not just to survive, but because I care. They stood close, hearts open. No more questions. No more doubt. From mechanic to mate, from stranger to part of a new world, Ethan had found his place. And Kelia, once bound by duty, had found someone who stood beside her by choice. Together, they looked at the stars. And together, they walked forward into whatever came next.